Hey guys, welcome to a new review. This time I'm going to be reviewing the Neca Aliens Ripley figure. Now this is a really nice figure, and I'm going to get to the figure itself in a second, but I suppose I should give a little shout out to the box, because the packaging is really nice. Now usually I don't tend to spend too much time on the packaging, but this has a lot to it, so it'll take a little bit of time for me to get past it. It says ages 17 up and up there, so it's an adult collector's thing, I guess. It's got a nice image of the figure there, which that doesn't really look like what the figure looks like, but I guess that's just a prototype. You've got another image on the side here, still not what she looks like. Then it's got other figures in the line, the half-man bishop figure, which that one seems like a rip-off toy because once you buy them, you still just have half a figure. Then there's the 2-pack, I guess, which looks awesome. And then there's Ripley herself, that's also available. And then there's a read-up here. The sole survivor of the Nostromo, Ripley is discovered in cryogenic sleep 57 years later by a salvage ship. When she is taken back to Earth, Ripley learns that the company has established human colonies on the same planet where the alien attack originated. After all contact with the colony is lost, Ripley agrees to return to the planet, accompanied by a team of colonial marines. Together they will rescue any survivors that remain and confront the alien menace head-on. So that's a pretty nice read-up. And then it's got just like the markings back there. It's from 2015, NECA. I don't think there's anything important there. That's a good sculptor. Alex Hankey or whoever. I've seen his name on a few of these NECA figures, but anyway, let's get to the figure herself. Just thinking about it, I think this is like the first time I've reviewed anything NECA, so that's also something notable. But I really love NECA figures, they're really nice. If you haven't picked up any, definitely consider it. Of course, they're kind of big. Here's her just next to a Walking Dead figure. See that? There's a huge height difference. She's like 7 inches, I think, because she's taller than even Marvel Legends figures. So yeah, 7 inches, I believe. So she looks nice, but there are a few complaints as well as a few compliments for her. First off, the paint. Let's do the paint, then the sculpt, and then the articulation. Where she has her mane falling down, I think, is in like sculpt issues, which hinder the articulation, but as for the paint, it's really nice. She's got her nice boots there, or shoes. I guess they're like sneakers, they go up a little higher. These were really nice. In the movie, they look kind of like Nike shoes. These look a little too tight, though. I think they should be a little more puffy, like at the ankle here. Yeah, but I'm not sure. They didn't show too much of her feet. And then her pants look nice. There seems to be a bit of a slight discoloration between the leg and the hips part. Seems like it's slightly brighter here and then slightly darker here, duller. But that doesn't matter too much. There's nice painted zippers on her, and then nice green strap around her. I like their red colors, very vibrant, and it really stands out. Makes her look extra special when she's standing away. See that? You can pick up on all the little details. I like that. And these are like, I believe, flares that she has on her on this strap. That's the stuff that she just kept going like psh and dropping on the ground so she made a trail. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it was bullets, right? Okay. And then she's got, this is weird, where she's supposed to like have these sweat stains and like dirt stains on her shirt. They just kind of made it look like it's got these weird gray spots, which if it was all throughout the shirt, like it went all around here and stuff, it would look a little more natural, but just having like out of nowhere a gray spot, that doesn't really look all that nice. I would just have stuck with like a black wash. But I don't think that matters too much. In the movie, she did have a really dirty shirt, I believe. And then on the prototype, you can tell it was a little more subtle, but it's not horrible. It doesn't stand out hugely. Like, if you have her at the side here, you can't really yeah, it's not really a problem. So it's a little bit of a bad paint job there, but her face is painted fairly well. I don't think she looks too much like Sigourney Weaver, but she looks enough to the point where you're like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's not Sigourney Weaver. And her hair is really nicely painted. It's just the same brown paint, but it looks like, to me, that you can see little tiny details added, but I can't make out what they are. It's odd. But anyway, maybe that's just the sculpt that's good there. Her eyes are nicely painted. See that? I think you can see like little tiny white dots in the middle as well. And they're not cross-eyed, which is something that seems like nowadays figures get more cross-eyed than usual. Yeah, and now let's talk about the sculpt. The sculpt is a bit of an oddity here. Like, it seems that her head was sculpted not with the body, because there's a huge gap between her neck part and her head. It looks like this was meant for a different body, but they had to swap the body out, and then they just moved the head sculpt over with it. I don't know. That looks weird. Like there's too much space there. Like, it looks normal just like seeing it, but that gap is weird. And then her hair is like a separate sculpt, so you can tell up close here that there's like a separation there, and that's weird. She looks really weird. So always make sure that that stays down, otherwise it looks really weird. She's got a very messy hair sculpt. I'm not sure if in the movie, I think her hair was a little less poofy upward, and it was going downward because it was wet, but I don't know. This is like straight from the last few minutes of the movie, like the last 20 minutes or so, when she's fighting the alien queen and stuff. And this is a good figure to have, but I kind of prefer a look in the jacket. I think that would have been a cool one to have, but I'm sure we might get that in the future, since they did make two versions of Bishop. They might as well make two of her, and then on her arm here there's a separate piece that's a watch. It's not really an accessory because it's not all that removable, but it's a nice little addition. It's just got a black front, tiny little button has been painted there. Sculpt on it is pretty nice. Just looks like a regular watch. The sculpt on her stuff here is just magnificent. This is a separate piece, but then again, it's not an accessory really. It just moves around freely, but to take it off, you kind of have to mess around a lot, and not even worth it. It's nicely sculpted indeed. It even looks like these things are separate, even though they aren't. So that's well sculpted. Yeah, and then the boots are extremely well sculpted. So the sculpt is fair, but then let's move to the articulation. I'll show you where the sculpt... Also, her arms seem a little long. Her proportions seem a slight bit off. I mean, it just seems like if... Let me compare her to a regular character from the series. Here's Hicks. It just seems like his arm is not quite as gangly looking. It's because they made her so skinny in the arms. It just looks a bit long. Maybe it's not proportionately off, it just looks weird to me, but yeah. But these two stand together pretty well. I'm really glad they made a Ripley. It seems like they should have made a Ripley before they made like Hudson, but I don't know, I like having the Colonial Marines. Hicks here is like, he was my favorite character of the movie, and the way they just dispatched him later on, that sucked. But I've heard of a new movie coming out by Neil Blomkamp or whatever. He apparently got the rights to make an alien movie, and it's going to be a sequel to Aliens, and it's going to have both Michael Biehn and Sigourney Weaver. There's not many details on it, but go check it out on IMDb, you can see. It's been like announced. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, articulation now. Head is highly restricted of moving. I don't know why. This just like helps support my idea that this head was not meant for this body. It's just, it doesn't want to move much. Let me show you. So there's a tightness when you move it this way, And then it feels like the ball is just moving around tightly in there. And then her hair and her head just don't want to cooperate enough to the point where it'll move much. It's just odd. Then, okay, so you can get her head off to the side in both directions, and that's good. You can get her to look down a bit and look up quite a bit. It's just tight there, that's all. Arm can do a full 360 at the shoulder, can move out to the side, not quite to a right angle, can bend to almost a 90-degree angle. It would have been nice if we got a 90-degree angle bend there. Also, I didn't notice this before, but her joint is skin toned when it should be white. That would have really been better as white. It just looks like she has holes in her armpits of the shirt. That's weird. Okay. She can do a full 360 at the elbow, full 360 at the hand. Hand can move up and down. It's on a ball joint. It's not a hinge. There's a literal ball joint in there. And it popped off. Didn't break, but see that tiny little ball? Let me focus this. That's actually a smaller ball than I thought it would be. And I've heard many complaints about this series with just this Ripley, that the ball joint in the hand has some sort of problem where it just won't hold the hand right and it keeps popping off. That's the first time it's fallen off on me, though. Other hand has the same ball joint, but seems like this one's a little more free moving, whereas this one's a little tighter and can't move much. Yeah. Both arms have about the same articulation. And then at the waist, there's some sort of ball joint there that can move that much backwards and that much forwards. Can do pivot. And then at the legs, it's really nice. It's got this rubber piece for the thigh part of the pants, so that it doesn't look like there's a joint there so much. And that's something that NECA has been doing for a long time. But you can see in there the joint, it's pretty good joint so that it can kick forward quite a bit, and depending on how much you want to stress the leg and the rubber, you can make her kick quite far. Like, see that? Of course, I wouldn't suggest doing that too many times. It could probably start ripping up the rubber. I'm not sure what these will look like in 20 years. Probably that rubber will cause a lot of problems. Not sure. Other leg can kick up about the same, and then off to the side, she can do ridiculous splits. Amazing. See that? That's nice. Okay. Now at the knees they can bend to about a 90-degree angle. A little less maybe. But same on both. Can do a 360 spin on both. And then at the ankle there's no spin down at the boot cuff there, I guess. But there is a spin at the bottom where the ankle is. But it's more like a ball joint. So all of her joints, like outer extremities, hands and feet, and head, are all on a ball joint, whereas everything else is a hinge, which works pretty well. And it can move up that much and down that much, and it won't really hold the pose. But anyway, ankle pivot, not really, a little bit maybe. If you force it, you could probably get quite a bit of ankle pivot. Yeah, a little bit. Which works well. Ankle pivot works well for having her like doing the splits and keeping her feet flat on the floor. So that's why you want ankle pivot. Okay, now I have to take a look at the accessory here, which I probably should have pointed out in the beginning of the review, but whatever. Here is her accessory. It's a really nice accessory. It's the machine gun and the flamethrower put together. I'm not sure what the accurate names for these things are. I'm sure it wasn't just called a machine gun or whatever. And it's got I think this is supposed to be a shotgun that's at the bottom, or grenade launcher of some sort. Yeah, I think grenade launcher and machine gun mixed together. So it's basically like an M16, right? Actually, now thinking about it, I think it's got 3 different holes. The top one's for a machine gun, middle one is a shotgun, then bottom one is the grenades, right? And to fire off a grenade, you pull this back and it shoots, and then to shoot the shotgun, you pull the trigger there. Yeah, apparently they actually created the gun so that it's a shotgun and a machine gun. So these things were actual working guns when they filmed the movie. That was pretty interesting. Except for the flamethrower, I don't know anything about that. But a little something neat about the flamethrower is the bottom half is removable. This whatever, I guess like tank. It's well sculpted, all this stuff. It looks like it's just a reuse of the original stuff that they had already. Like, let me see if I can pull it out. Here's the machine gun. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it looks like it might be the same as these, which came out previously. Here's the flamethrower and the machine gun. If you just set them together here, I think like this, it's basically just that. See that? Yeah. But this one's darker painted, it's got much more damage on it, and then for the flamethrower I think there's quite a difference. Let's see, yeah, the main difference is the way the flamethrower, like, I guess this is like the fuel tank for it. That's removable, whereas this is not, and then it looks like it's slightly sculpted differently. Other than that, yeah, and the front is different as well. So yeah, there's a lot of differences there. I kind of like that they didn't just use the same sculpt, but then again, it probably would just be more practical to use the same sculpt, so I don't know why they didn't. And then for the machine gun, looks pretty much the same. The trigger's not the same because on this one, the one that came with Ripley, it doesn't have a trigger, whereas it should have a trigger. Other than that, pretty sure it's the same. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's bad or anything. It's really nicely sculpted, and this is basically all it should be. It's strapped together at the base here, like the butts of the rifles, with some sort of tape, which in the movie, if you watch, you can see her do that. She only taped that, and then didn't seem like she did anything to attach the front parts, but for this, they've got the strap around the flamethrower, and then it's kind of connected through this hook to the machine gun, so that they're kind of more stuck together than they would be in the movie. And that's pretty nice. The paint is really nice, got a lot of damage, see that? Okay, now let's pop this in her hand, and then we should wrap up the review. Yep. Another problem is the strap. If you try and put it over her shoulder like it probably should be, you can't get the guns to her hand, and it ends up looking weird. So what I do is I put it over her head like that, and then squeeze it around here. The strap should be longer because this way it doesn't really want to, give you any real working room here, whatever. But yeah, you can get it in her hands. Looks nice. There's a lot of different moving around that you have to do though to get her to look like she's in a natural position, which is ridiculous. It shouldn't be so hard. All they had to do was create a longer strap, but I guess they're cheap. Probably not all that cheap though, because a $20 price range is not bad for this figure. She's got a really nice accessory, she's well sculpted, and I could imagine, like, what is it, Play Arts Akai or something, if they made something like this, whatever it is, Figure Arts, one of those special Bandai, whatever, toy companies, if they made one that looked exactly like this, they would charge probably like $70 or something. So NECA is like a cheap alternative to that, even though it's kind of expensive. When you consider that she's the same price range as Marvel Legends, then it starts getting ridiculous. However, I can't get her to pose as well with the flamethrower as with the machine gun. So if she's trying to hold on to the flamethrower and not the machine gun, it looks a little messed up, so you have to move the strap around. And I still haven't found a way to get it right, so it's always just her holding the machine gun with me. I don't know if anyone else has had that problem. Maybe I'm just stupid and haven't figured it out yet because I'm stupid, but that's definitely a problem. There we go. I guess that kind of works, but the strap again is a problem. And then the strap is made out of a rubbery plastic, and because it's attached to the gun in such a tiny point, it always feels like it's going to tear, so I think over time this will tear off and then it'll just be a strapless gun here. Probably have to glue it, so that'll suck, but anyway, I think this is a really nice figure. I would highly suggest picking it up if you are an Aliens fan. If you are not an Aliens fan and not a fan of Ripley's character, I guess, but who's not a fan of Ripley? But anyway, if you're not an Aliens fan, probably not worth it for you, so you could probably leave it, especially since it's not, as a figure itself, it's not the greatest figure, but as a Ripley figure, it's a must-have because it's Ripley. Anyway, let me get some bookends here for her. I own 2 Hicks figures, just because they made 2. Okay, so make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure to check out my future videos, previous videos, every video that I make of all time. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe on those as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.